Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that really helps to get my channel promoted, and I do appreciate that immensely. I also love it when people leave comments, so if you have an idea for a video, or you have a question about this one, or you want to share how you do something, or just some constructive criticism is even nice. So thanks for those things in advance. Periodically, I like to make something sort of avant-garde looking, and I found this old well, it's an antique now, but it was on an auction site somewhere online. It's classified in the style of the Bauhaus movement, and it's just kind of a cool looking ring. It has a flat stone disc in it. I'm going to use, I have a little flat stone tiger's eye disc that's about 18 millimeters, and I'm going to use that for the stone. But I think it'll be a fun one, so let's do that and see how it comes out. Before we get started, I wanted to thank some groups of people, my patrons. It's really a nice environment over there, and there's a lot of smart people with a lot of knowledge and skills over there. I really appreciate getting to see all of your artwork as well. So I do also appreciate your financial support as well, because I couldn't probably do this without that. So thank you. My YouTube subscribers are my other group, and we just passed 16,500, and that's amazing, and I just can't believe that every time I look at that number. Thank you so much for that, and thanks for leaving all the really nice comments. It's great to see people offering interesting and useful information in the comment section. I do appreciate those people who lend their expertise to my channel. I also appreciate the really heartfelt thanks that some people have been giving me, and I do feel good knowing that I'm helping some people, so thank you for that. The other thing is, thanks for the financial support. The Buy Me a Coffees and the Super Thanks really help with the cost of materials right now, so I appreciate that. Okay, well, let's get started on this sort of avant-garde ring, and we'll see how it comes out. This is one of my design idea books that you can get over on the merch store. This particular one has a conversion chart on the back, which is fractions of an inch to decimals to millimeter measurements, which I find particularly useful these days. There's one over there that has American wire gauge to millimeters, and we're just about to put one up that has characteristics of silver and sterling silver on it. So there's usually some extra useful information on the back side of it, or on the front side. So check those out. I like these because it allows me to keep a record of what I've done, and also it helps me to kind of keep things sort of symmetrical with the stop matrix in the background. And this is kind of what I'm going to do today, at least that's my goal. I have this tiger's eye right here. Probably put that side up. That's kind of a pretty piece. So that's going to go there. It's going to be held down by this little one prong that sticks out there. I'm going to mount it on top of a little platform made out of 18 gauge sheet. So it'll be kind of going right here. And then we're going to put this 10 gauge square wire that goes around, kind of holding it in place. Now, I thought about putting a tiny little short bezel there for this to kind of rest in, and then bending this down over it. And that would be kind of nice, but it's going to make it so I can't have it as sleek as I'd like it. So I think I'm going to use a little bit of epoxy just to hold it to the top of this. So I'll epoxy it and slide it in there, and then we'll wipe off the excess and let it dry. Because I want it to have a real kind of clean look to it without, you know, something sticking out and holding it in right there. So I went with my second plan. Okay, so I think to start with, let's make the platform that's going to be going underneath this. And so what I did was, this is about 18 millimeters, and when you take 18 millimeters times pi, that'll give you the circumference, because it was 18 millimeters diameter, and it comes out to 56.52 if I did my math right. So I cut a piece of 18 gauge sheet that was, let's see how wide it is. It didn't need to be terribly deep. Let's see what I did. I did about 5 or 6 millimeters. And I made this longer than 56.52 because I wanted it to be, it's more like 65. That way I have some extra, and once I get it into a circle, I can kind of gradually make it smaller until it's just the right size to fit exactly underneath this. I want it to be exactly the same size. And then we'll mount it on a piece of 18 gauge sheet, and then we can shape it from there. But let's make this into, well, first of all, let's file it a little bit, get it cleaned up. If you haven't been to my channel before, I use hard silver sheet solder for the most part. I occasionally use a little bit of paste solder on something. I use a liquid flux that I dribble on with a dropper bottle. I'm sending this thing flying today. And my torch is a Silversmith model. It's their acetylene air torch, which I really enjoy using. It's a nice torch. And I use a #1 tip for most things. If you want to make sure you get a nice 90° on this, if filing isn't your strong suit, you can always use your miter vise jig if you have one of those. Those are kind of nice. But I'm gonna grab my ring mantler. We'll start down here small. I'm gonna tap this downwards a little bit. See if we can't get it when I cut it, if I cut it a little bit long, that's better than if I cut it a little short, I think. It'll make it easier to size it down further if I need to. But just by looking at it, you get a pretty close estimate. I want it to sit right on top of there and be exactly the same size. So right now it's a little bit big. So let's cut it right about there, and then we'll take out pieces until it fits perfect. Let's see where we're at here. That's pretty close. I think it needs just a skosh taken out. When I get this side lined up over here, this side's got a little excess, so I'm going to take just a sliver out and file it again. I think that's about right. So I'm going to go ahead and solder that, and then we'll round it out a little more precisely. And then we can put a top on it. Let's make sure everything's lined up nice. Okay, let's cut a little bit of solder. So I'm going to do something called pick soldering, where I pick up a little bit of solder on the end of a soldering pick like this. If you're interested in learning more about how to do that, it's a really useful skill, and I recommend learning how to do it. Put a link up there for you. So I'll just pick up a piece of this. Heat this up to the soldering flow temperature, which in this case is 1450-ish in Fahrenheit. Just removing a little bit of excess solder on the inside. Pretty good. Okay, some more 18 gauge. We do it right about there, maybe. And let's just make a little scratch. Right about there. Right about there. I get asked about these shears periodically. They're Fisker's craft shears. And what I'm doing to them would be considered shear abuse, because I'm cutting 18 gauge sheet with them, which they're really not designed to do, but they do for a while and then they eventually will probably break. But the convenience of it outweighs the need to buy a new pair now and again. But in general, they last longer than you would expect. That's pretty good, I think. So, not bad on the size. Okay, for this one, I'm just going to throw it just like I would normally do a bezel. I'll probably just put some solder pieces around the inside edge after I flux it, of course, and then we'll heat it up. Okay, so there's quite a bit of mass in this piece on the bottom, so I'm going to kind of focus the heat mostly on that, because the piece on top will have a lot less trouble getting up to the 1450 degrees because it's directly exposed to the flame, versus this other one which is laying on the pad. Now you could get underneath it if you want to, but I can usually get it pretty good this way. And I'm looking for a shiny seam, flowing all the way around the outside there, which I think I have. You could probably use a little bit thinner sheet for this flat part up here if you wanted to. It's not a structurally important area, but I do like having a nice big heavy solid ring sometimes. So let's cut off the excess. I hope everybody's having a nice, holiday season. Get this file down flush. Okay, I got that all cleaned up. It's pretty smooth and looks nice. And it fits about right. So I think that'll work okay. Now we got to make this 10 gauge piece of square wire do what we want it to do. So I've marked where the solder joint is on this thing. It's kind of hard to see once you file it, but it's right there. So that's probably where I'll solder this to it. But before I do that, I need to make kind of a sharp bend there that'll be a nice angle. And I think my options are I can file a notch in the wire and try and get a nice 90-degree angle that's clean, and that's going to be a little bit harder than if I use my miter vise jig and actually do 45s. But the disadvantage if I do that is that it's going to be two separate pieces soldered together, and when I go to solder the whole thing together, that may move a little bit on me, which I'd rather it didn't. So I think if I go a little bit longer in than I need, right there, and let's file a 45-degree notch there. I'm going to use the edge of my big file here. Let's bend that and see how it looks. That should be pretty good, I think. So let's solder that so that it's solid again on that corner. think that's okay. Now I need to get this one pretty precise so I don't have a lot of excess space there, so I'm going to use my marker to help me decide where to solder this piece on. So this is going to be going here. I was thinking I was going to tape it together, but that'll add some extra depth to it. So, to be right there. So we need to solder this. It's right like that. We just have to elevate this to just the correct height, and I think we'll be all right. Let's see, that's not working very well. Maybe we can come up with a different plan. What if put that in there as a spacer? That looks pretty straight. So what I did was I found some scrap silver and I squished it down to where it was about the right height. Make sure that that's lined up right. And let's see if we can solder that on there. So I may have to do a little bit of filing to make sure that it fits in there tightly, but that's close. So I think that's close enough to call good for the moment. Okay, so now I need to think about this here. I'm going to have to make a concave on either side of this to make it fit nicely on a finger, I believe. So we'll kind of make that concave on either side, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I did a little bit of shaping on this so you can see it's got a curve now. And then what I did was I put it about where I wanted it to be, which was maybe a 7.5, and I made a mark about where it's going to meet the bottom there. And it's not going to be a perfect 7.5, but it'll be somewhere between a 7.5 and an 8.5 probably. But right there is where I'm going to file my diagonal filing again, and then we'll make another bend. And I really want this to kind of line up with the edge here. So, where's my little ruler? Kind of do that maybe. So if we want it to bend, so that's right there, we're going to have to file it right about right there, I think. Try it and see. I think it needs to go a little bit deeper than that. So you can see this needs to be cut off just a little bit, probably about right. About right there. That's kind of what I'm shooting for. Now the trick will be to get these two soldered without having anything move on me. Let's see if we can figure out a way to do that. Okay, I'm just going to push that down into my magnesia block so it probably can't move too much. I think that thing can't for sure, so let's just pick solder a little there and there, and then we'll clean it up and throw it in the pickle. We'll get it polished after that. That looks pretty good. Need to clean that up with the file and then pickle it, like I said. And remember, I'm going to have to, this was a little bit tight up here, so I may have to run a file on the inside edge just a little bit, right in there. We're also going to need to cut this off a little bit shorter down here. That right there. Okay, I'll be back after I get it all pickled and we'll glue that in there. So I got this pretty much polished up, I think. And this is just gonna, which side did I decide to put up? I think this side. Yeah. So that'll just be going right in there. And that'll be how it goes. I think that's pretty cool, actually. I'm pleased with that. So I'll get that glued up and get some pictures taken, and then we'll be done. So. Okay, well, that was the Tiger's Eye disc ring. I hope you enjoyed that one. I like making Bauhaus things and also visiting other art movements. It's kind of fun to try and recreate the look of different periods. So if you enjoyed that, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. And I'd love it if you'd take a moment and go to my channel page and check out some of the other videos I have. I have well over 400 now. I've been doing 3 per week for about 3 years now, and that starts to add up. There's lots of content, many different design ideas you can get some ideas from, lots of instructional videos, so check those out and make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. The other thing is, hit the video description down below for some important links. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get one of those nice design idea books. And like I said, there's a new one going to be available in the next day or two with characteristics, melting temperature and stuff of silver on it. If you want to get my ebook, there's a link for that. I am currently frantically working on my 2024 ebook, and hopefully that'll be out shortly after the beginning of the year. And then that'll also be available where the link is to my current one. So, and finally, if you want to check out Patreon, that's a great community over there, and I have met a lot of really nice people through it. So I'd love to see you over there too. So check it out. All right, well, thanks for coming by. Take care. Happy silversmithing.